वर्णिवेशरमणीयदर्शनं मन्दहासरुचिरादननाम्बुजं पूजितं सुरनरोत्तमैर्मुदा धर्मनन्दनमहं विचिन्तये। प्रभु तव मूर्ति विनोदकारी, पलपन विसरे नहीं जो विसारी। जुगल चरण सोड़ चिन्ह जेह, नजर समीपे रहो यमारी एह। गुरुर्ब्रह्मा गुरुर्विष्णु गुरुर्देवो महेश्वरः, गुरुः साक्षात् परं ब्रह्म तस्मै श्री गुरवे नमः। बोलो श्री स्वामीनारायण भगवाननी जय। श्री ठाकुर जी महाराजनी जय। श्री घनश्याम महाराजनी जय। श्री हरि कृष्ण महाराजनी जय। श्री सद्गुरु देवनी जय। Supreme Almighty, our beloved Thakur Ji Maharaj, Piyuda Ghanshyamprakashdasji Maharaj, all the divine Sadgurus from our Muktanandiya Parampara, our pathmaker to liberation, Pujapat Guruji, all our present Loyadham Parivar Santo and Bhakto, you devotees, Jai Swaminarayan. Today, Yuva Sabha Week 10. Today's topic of this Yuva Sabha is very special because it is given to us by Puja Guruji, and that's why this is special for us. As we are Loyadham Parivar Santa and Bhakto, Puja Guruji give us a mission, give us a goal, that is Maru Laksh Loyadham. So today's topic is Maru Laksh Loyadham. According to the Vachanamrut and many other scriptures, as after getting into this satsang fellowship, either we read the scriptures or listen to them by the santos during the Kathavarta. And according to those scriptures, we knew about the ultimate goal. That is, either we can say it ultimate liberation, to go to Akshardham, to get 24/7 involved into the continuously engaging one's mind in the form of God, etc., etc., etc. But Puja Guruji says our lux, meaning our goal, is Loyadham. And as we know about the Vachanamrut, Garuda Middle chapter 13. So in that Vachanamrut, Sri Maharaj himself says, the scriptures can only be understood when the Satpurus manifest on this earth, and when he explained the scriptures, and when we listen his words regarding the scriptures, then and then we can understand the scriptures or the meaning of the scripture. So here we can find a great diversity. On the other hand, the scripture says our ultimate goal is Bhagwan's Rajipo or Bhagwan's divine abode of Akshardham, or to engage 24/7 into the memory of Bhagwan's divine form, to get Ekantik Panu, etc. On the other hand, Puja Guruji says our goal is Loyadham. So, to find out the meaning of our Lux Loyadham, we need to go inside, very deep inside, up to the bottom of Puja Guruji's heart. Then and then we can understand what is Maru Lux Loyadham means. And when in reality we see, we observe according to the scriptures perspective, Satpurus, each word is the scriptures itself. There is no any difference between Satpuru's words and the scriptures. So, the other scriptures and Pujyapat Guruji's words, there can never be any difference between these two types of scriptures. Only remaining part, that is how we understand Pujya Guruji's words, that is very important. Let me see how we should understand these Pujya Guruji's divine words in next slide. As we have discussed, as per Vachanamrut, our goal is attainment of Dham, Rajivo, continuously engaging mind on God, etc. etc. Then why our goal is Loyadham? How we should understand Maru Laksh Loyadham? How we can proudly say, my goal is only and only to Loyadham? It is not like that my goal is Akshardham, meaning our goal is to reach up to the Akshardham. But here we are already in Loyadham, so there is no need to go to Loyadham. That is not the meaning of this sentence. But instead of that, if we try to understand these divine words of Pujya Guruji, Maru Laksh Loyadham, in exactly the same way, what the meaning of these divine words resides in Pujya Guruji's heart. So for that purpose, we have to go inside, meaning up to the bottom of Pujya Guruji's heart. Then and then we can understand what he wants to say. Otherwise, we can never understand his divine words. Let me try by our best to understand Pujya Guruji's divine words. For that purpose, our most reverend and most experienced saints, they have derived these 4 points to understand this Maru Laksh Loyadham. First, an effort to understand principles described in Vachanamruts of Loyadham. We know about the history, we know about the facts written in the Vachanamruts. There are total 18 Vachanamruts spoken by Sriji Maharaj himself in Loyadham. So, Maru Laksh Loyadham meaning, first point, to understand the principles described in the Vachanamruts, specially spoken in Loyadham. So to study and try to imbibe those things, those agnyas, those method of upasana, the form of nishtha, etc. from the Vachanamruts of Loyadham, that is called Maru Laksh Loyadham. Second point, an effort to take inspiration from the life of Loyadham Surakhacha. We know in this satsang, Surakhacha's character it was taken very normally. But instead of that, we should go inside his devotion, how he was firm in his observance of the vows, how he was very accurate to obey each and every command given by Sriji Maharaj. How was his devotion? How was his upasana? So when we try to understand and try to imbibe those virtues of Surakhacha, that is called Maru Laksh Loyadham. So first point, to understand the Vachanamrut principles which were spoken in Loyadham. Second one, to get inspiration, to try to get imbibe the divine virtues of Surakhacha. that is called Marulaksh Loyadham. Third point, an effort to understand opinion of Muktanand Swami who visited Loyadham. This third point, try to understand our Adi Gurudev, Swami Shri's divine opinion, that is called Marulaksh Loyadham. Why? Because we have attained Adi Gurudev, Swami, in our divine Guru Parampara. He has given us everything. He had given us the divine form of Thakurji Maharaj. He has given us this whole Guru Parampara Sadguru. He has given us Puja Guruji. He has given us this Loyadham Parivar. Meaning he has given us everything what we are facing today in the satsang. Whatever divine virtues we can see either in the Santo's life or in any devotee's life, all those belongs to Muktanand Swami. Because he is the mother. He is our Adi Gurudev. That's why everything belongs to him. So, to our effort to understand opinion of Muktanand Swami, that is called Marulaksh Loyadham. And fourth point, Puja Guruji, who is serving Loyadham with his each breath, to understand his effort, to understand his zeal, to understand his level of understanding Mahima of Loyadham, that is called Marulaksh Loyadham. It is not simply to say Marulaksh Loyadham, or it is not simply like I am Loyadham Parivar's devotee or I am Loyadham Parivar's sadhu. Merely by speaking this way, we cannot understand, we cannot even go near to these divine words. Marulaksh Loyadham. Instead of everything what we have inside our mind, we have to wash out all those definitions and imbibe these 4 points in our life, and then try to understand more and more, deeper and deeper. Because this is the heart of Puja Guruji. Marulaksh Loyadham meaning his heart. So it is not very easy to understand. Even it is not very easy to understand the opinion and one's heart or one's sentiment or emotions of this world, meaning any person of this world, then how it is very tough, or we can say it is very hard to understand the heart and emotion of Puja Guruji, who is not of this world, who is beyond this world. While staying in Akshardham, he is divinely, or we can say he is appear on this earth only for the sake of all liberation. So again and again, not only reading, not merely by thinking on this, but trying to imbibe these 4 points. How I can go deeper and deeper into these points. Then and then we can get something. What is Marulaksh Loyadham? So an effort to serve Loyadham with our body, mind and wealth while observing Agnya and Upasana and according to Puja Guruji's basis, that is called Marulaksh Loyadham. So let's make above 4 main things our goal so that Puja Guruji's motto becomes true. Marulaksh Loyadham. Puja Guruji's mysterious opinion is understood to be something like this, meaning it is not different from the scriptures' opinion. It is the same what is written in the scriptures. But to understand the words of the Satpurus, we have to be very close to the Satpurus. If we have unflinching faith in him, if we have extremely dhrad priti, if we have taken very firmly his asra, his refuge, then and then it is said we are trying to understand his perspective, his heart. Otherwise, it is said like we are doing nothing. Let we try to go deeper and deeper to understand these 4 points. In next slide. Yes, an effort to understand principles described in the Vachanamruts of Loyadham. This is first point out of 4. So what is in the Vachanamruts of Loyadham? We know about that the 18 Vachanamruts of Loyadham were, when we study the whole Vachanamrut, then we can find out these 18 totally different from the others. Why? Because these Vachanamruts has very deeper principles of Sriji Maharaj, as well as they have some talks regarding the philosophy. They have the talks regarding Sriji Maharaj Upasana, the very easiest way of Nishtha, how one can become free from the fear of death, how to eradicate one's swabhavs. So in third Vachanamrut of Loya, we can learn from that Vachanamrut Upasana, Nishtha, Samarpan, Khap. Because in this Vachanamrut, Sriji Maharaj himself narrated some devotees' life who had unflinching faith, nishtha, nischay, whatever we say, those type of divine virtues in those devotees' lives. And Sriji Maharaj himself narrated their stories. And we can imbibe these virtues from third Vachanamrut of Loya, Upasana, Nishtha, Samarpan and Khap. In this Vachanamrut, Sriji Maharaj himself has narrated his own story, how he came to the lodge merely by Muktanand Swami's saintliness. He stopped there. He decided to stay there forever. After that, he desired to see Muktanand Swami, Ramanand Swami. But as Ramanand Swami sent a message, and Ramanand Swami sent a message through Mayaram Bhatt, and when Mayaram Bhatt said, if you want to stay in this satsang, you have to embrace the pillar of this satsang. And from that day, Sriji Maharaj himself, the Supreme God, to whom we worship every day, that Supreme God, he himself stay under Muktanand Swami's guidance. He never disobey any of Muktanand Swami's words. While he was staying there in lodge as Nilkant Varni, or we can say Sarjudas, for almost a year. So he had followed each and every commands given by Muktanand Swami. So in this way, he described how should be the form of cup. In 17th Vachanamrut of Loya, to stay egoless in front of a sant. So in this Vachanamrut, Sriji Maharaj himself says, if a person has realized the greatness of the sant, then regardless of how much the sant scorn him, he would never become upset with the sant. In fact, if he does find a fault in anyone, he would find it in himself. But in no way would he perceive a flaw in the sant. Thus, he who has realized the greatness of God and the sant has a firm foundation in satsang. Conversely, one cannot be certain about a person who has not realized such greatness. So, how to understand the greatness of Bhagwan and the Sant, and understanding their greatness? When some harsh words spoken by Sant for oneself, at the time, one should realize this greatness, these words of Sriji Maharaj, and then remain very realized for this greatness. And because of that, one can stay very firmly in the satsang. Otherwise, when any sant scolds him, even without his fault, then one cannot remain in this satsang. One definitely took a bow, avgun of the sant who had scolded him, and because of that, he gradually or suddenly fall from the satsang. So we should understand to stay egoless in front of sant in this from this Vachanamrut of Loya 17. Now the 6 of Loya, purifying the company one keeps. In this Vachanamrut, Sriji Maharaj himself says, in this Vachanamrut, all of the questions asked by Sriji Maharaj, and according to that, Sriji Maharaj asked a question, which type of sadhu should one keep the company of, and which type should one not keep the company of? Sriji Maharaj then replied, if we are staying with a sadhu who observes the religious vows strictly and has firm faith in God, but who instead of reprimanding us, pampers us and let us have our way, then even if he, like Muktanand Swami, is considered great in public opinion, his company should not be kept. On the other hand, if a sadhu repeatedly reprimands one and remains constant vigilant on any swabhav he sees within us, and if he does not cease to denounce that swabhav until it is overcome and does not merely flatter, then even he is not considered great in public view, one should still keep his company. So in this Vachanamrut, Sriji Maharaj clearly says for every individual who come into this satsang, because the company one keeps is very important. If one stays in the company of a great sant like that of Muktanand Swami, he definitely totally changed. All of his swabhavs, all of his bad qualities definitely suppressed merely by Swami's prabhav, Swami's divine aura. On the other hand, if someone who is not keeping the company of such a great sant, and instead of that, someone who is staying in other sant, who is not have achieved, or one who has not attained the similar level of saintliness like that of Muktanand Swami, then definitely one cannot progress in satsang in comparison of the previous. So if you want to get some more and more progress in this satsang, then we have to keep a company of perfect, or we can say a great sant who always give us instruction, you should not do this, you should do this. And whenever we make any mistake, immediately he can tell us, so that we can progress, we can find out our mistakes, and after finding out we can solve the problem, we can solve our mistake, we will never get involved in the same mistake. In this way we can progress in the satsang. Next, in Loya 4th 18 Vachanamrut, 4 and 18. In the 18th Vachanamrut of Loya, Sriji Maharaj gives the understanding, meaning how we should keep understanding. In this Vachanamrut, Sriji Maharaj says, one who has a conviction of God realizes the divine powers, opulence and attendance of the abodes of Golok, Vaikunth, Sveddeep and Brahmapur, all accompany God. Furthermore, those who serve him are Radhika, Lakshmi, etc. He sees God in such a transcendental manner, but those who are fools see him as a human. Meaning, we should be alert for our conviction regarding Maharaj. If our understanding, if our samjan would not according to this Vachanamrut, then there may be some chances when Bhagwan or the Sadgurus performs any human-like action. Then at the time, by observing those human-like actions, if we do not have this much conviction in the form of God and Sadgurus, then we will falter from our faith, and due to that, we definitely fall from the satsang. So conviction is the main thing. In the fourth Vachanamrut of Loya, Sriji Maharaj says the same thing. One who understands God as flawless by believing God is capable, so whatever he does is appropriate, is said to have overcome Maya. So if we want to overcome Maya, we have to keep this understanding regarding the flawless nature of God. Again, Sriji Maharaj says in first Vachanamrut of Loya, how to eradicate Swabhav. That is very important for us, because after getting this satsang, we have to eradicate our Swabhav, because our Swabhav always hinders us to grow in this satsang. Our Swabhav is hinders us to progress day and day in this satsang. So if we want to remain more progressive, then we have to eradicate these Swabhavas. How? Let's see in the Vachanamrut. Then Nityananda Swami asked, what is the method of overcoming the enemies of lust, anger, etc.? Sriji Maharaj replied, lust and those other enemies are overcome only if one remains alert to mercilessly punish them. Just as Dharam Raja remains ready day and night to beat sinners with a stick, similarly, if the Indriyas behave immorally, then the Indriyas should be punished. And if the Antakaran behaves immorally, then the Antakaran should be punished. The Indriyas should be punished by imposing upon them the Kruch, Chandrayan and other observances, and the Antakaran should be punished through a thought process. As a result, those enemies of lust, anger, etc. would be defeated. Then, by having faith in God, one would feel oneself to be completely fulfilled. So give punishment to our senses, our mind, our antakaran, etc. This is the only and easiest way to eradicate the Swabhav. And second Vachanamrut of Loya, in this Vachanamrut, Sriji Maharaj himself says how to become free from fear of death. We know everyone has a fear of death. Very few person on this earth who has not fear of death. Most of us, we have this fear, whether we believe it or not, whether we accept it or not, but we have the fear of death. And how we can remove those fear from our heart? The very easiest way, Sriji Maharaj described in this second Vachanamrut of Loya. If I feel that there are 4 types of devotees of God who no longer fear death and who feel completely fulfilled. These 4 types are: first, one who has faith; second, one with Jnana; third, one with courage; and fourth, one with affection. These 4 types of devotees do not fear death. So we have to imbibe either of these 4 virtues. So if we get mastery over any of these 4 virtues, then automatically the fear of death removed from our heart. And this is what the very shortly we go inside to merely just read those quotations of these Vachanamrits. Now let we see next point, the second point. An effort to take inspiration from the life of Loyadham's Surakhacher. In this satsang, many who try to describe Surakhacher's character as nothing but a funny devotee. But that is totally wrong, because Surakhacher's life is like an extremely idle devotee of Bhagwan. What we can learn from his life? There are like countless divine virtues in his life, but we can at least take some virtues which we have described here. First, restraint of senses. Second, affection towards sadhu. Third one, from faith in God's command. And fourth one is from faith in form of God. So first, restraint of senses. He had get control over all of his senses. There are many incidents, but out of that, we can know about the incident of Jasdan. This charitra is described in one of the Yuva course from 1 to 10, and that's why it is not given in this course. But this incident happened to Surakachar when he was upon the invitation of the king of the Jasdan. When Surakachar went there for staying a night, the king of Jasdan provided Surakachar a separate room. But the king of the Jasdan, he was not the devotee of God. Instead of that, he had some prejudice for Sriji Maharaj, and that's why he sent a prostitute to falter the Surakachar from his vow. And for that, at night, when someone knocked the door, Surakachar asked, "Who's there?" Then he get answer. The answer of the voice of a female. So immediately Surakachar became alert, because that was the time of late night. Surakachar opened the door, but when he found this is something like fraud, immediately he took out his sword from the cover and he asked the female, "Who sent you?" Then she explained everything, like the king had sent her to falter him from his vow of the devotees. And finally, Surakachar immediately left the place. Even that was the time of very early morning. Still, he left the place. He immediately go for Gadda. And in early morning, Sriji Maharaj, who was sitting under the neem tree, and in front of him, many devotees and santos, they were gathered for the sabha. Sriji Maharaj said in that sabha, "Today, a special devotee who is coming by getting victory over Indriya God." Everyone was surprisingly asked, "Maharaj, we have listened Idar God, but we never listened Indriya God. So what is this? And who is coming?" And meanwhile, Surakachar entered the Darbargar. Sriji Maharaj himself go forward and embrace him. Surakachar performing Danvat to Maharaj. And after that, Sriji Maharaj himself narrated the whole incident. And to praise Surakachar's celibacy, to praise Surakachar's faith and his courage to follow his religious vow, Sriji Maharaj gifted him a sword with a golden handle. And today that sword, we can have a chance to do darshan in Loyadham. So this is what his restraint of senses. So we can learn these virtues from Surakachar's life. The affection towards sadhu. When that it was the time of famine of 1869, that time Surakachar requested Sriji Maharaj, "Maharaj, I want sadhus." I want to keep sadhus with me so that I can provide them with food, water, etc., with everything. I have enough food for them. I have enough grains for them. So I can provide all these things to the sadhus. Please send sadhu with me to Loya. But at that time, only 25 sadhus remain in Garuda. So Sriji Maharaj says, Muktanand Swami, please you yourself go with all these 24 sadhus and stay there for a long period of time. And in this way, our Adi Gurudev Swami himself, along with the other sadhus, came to Loyadham and he stayed there, and at that time Muktanand Swami had established this satsang of Loyadham. Firm faith in God's command. When Sriji Maharaj wrote a letter and gave it to Baguji, and in that letter, not too much description, only prescription, meaning only in very short words, it was the command of Sriji Maharaj that then Sriji Maharaj noted the names of some devotees, and the message for them was that immediately when you get this message, immediately leave everything behind and come to become sadhu. When Surakachar get this message, at the time he was standing near the Hanumanji's small mandir in the outskirts of Loyadham. So he was there at that time, and when he got the message, immediately, even he never returned to, he never go to his home at the time, and immediately he left the place. He left the Loyadham, and he proceeded towards the Maharaj for becoming sadhu. So this is what his understanding regarding to follow each and every commands given by Maharaj. At that time, his age was not too much, but only 27 years. So on that age, he decided to become a sadhu. Even though he was married, still he did not go back to ask even his wife or his son, but immediately he left the place and became sadhu. So that was his firmness in observing the commands. Again, firm faith in the form of God. We know the story of Sakotsav. When Santaba sent Surakachar to invite Maharaj, and when she told him, like, if Maharaj denied to come here in Loyadham, then you should stay there and you should become a sadhu. At that time, when Maharaj denied, Surakachar was looking here and there, like in above in the sky, in different directions. Then Maharaj asked him, what are you looking for? Then Surakachar replied, Maharaj, I am looking for the other Almighty, the Supreme God. If anyone who is Supreme God besides you, then I'll definitely take him to the Loya. But how I can find the other God in this world, in this earth? Only you are the Supreme God, and that's why I have no other way to find anyone who is perfect match or to whom I can worship as a Supreme Almighty. So this is what the form of Upasana Surakachar has in his mind. So we can learn these virtues of Surakachar from his divine virtuous life. Now next we can see, we can try to understand the third point. Please next slide. An effort to understand opinion of Muktanand Swami. Muktanand Swami's opinion is very hard to understand, because if we cannot understand anyone's opinion, anyone meaning one who is of this world, so it is very tough it is very hard to understand someone who is not of this world, to understand his heart, his opinion. But still, let us try to understand his opinion, or with the help of Sriji Maharaj's words, because in Vachanamrut, there is no sant besides Muktanand Swami who was praised by Sriji Maharaj himself. In the Vachanamrut of third Loya, Sriji Maharaj himself count many devotees' name who has firm faith in the form of God and His Sant. Or we can say, one who has firm faith in the form of God and His Sant along with their glory. So, in this Vachanamrut, Sriji Maharaj himself described the name and incidents of Muktanand Swami. So in this way, Sriji Maharaj praised Muktanand Swami in the Vachanamrut of third chapter Loya, like one who has unflinching faith in God coupled with the knowledge of His greatness. So Muktanand Swami or Adi Gurudev was like that. And for Swami, Sriji Maharaj himself says in third Vachanamrut of Loya, when Swami sent a message from the city of Bhuj via Mayaram Bhatt, saying, if you desire to stay in the satsang fellowship, you will have to stay by embracing its pillar. I literally embraced a pillar. Seeing this, Mayaram Bhatt said, you should live according to Muktanand Swami's commands. Thus, before I had the darshan of Ramanand Swami, I stayed under Muktanand Swami for 9 months. So this is very tough for anyone to remain under someone who is not one's guru. Nilkantvarni, who has accepted Ramanand Swami as his guru, but by Ramanand Swami's command, by Ramanand Swami's message, he stay under the commands of Muktanand Swami until he would not meet Ramanand Swami in Piplana. Up to there, for more than 9 months, he stay and he even follow each and every commands of Muktanand Swami. When Muktanand Swami says in Nilkantvarni or Sarjudas, go to collect the cow dungs from the village outskirts, immediately Maharaj, in the form of Sarjudas, he went to the outskirts of the village, he collected the cow dungs and returned to the ashram. When Muktanand Swami says, Sarjudas, go and fetch some water for the Santa, then immediately Sarjudas went to the village step well. There he fetched some water and returned with the water for the Santa. When Swami says, Sarjudas, go into the kitchen and prepare some meal for the Santa, immediately Sarjudas went into the kitchen and he prepared some meal and offered to the Santa. In this way, he stayed for 9 months. So, how was the great character of Muktanand Swami? That is the point. To whom we have attained as our Adi Gurudev. His greatness is beyond our imagination, because Maharaj himself stay under his commands. That is obviously beyond our understanding, beyond our imagination, beyond our intellect. Second, faith, meaning how was his faith? In 24th Vachanamrut, the last chapter, in this Vachanamrut, Sriji Maharaj says, moreover, of the various virtues possessed by devotees, I shall now narrate one admirable virtue in each, Muktanand Swami the virtues of desiring to please me and having faith in me. So in this Vachanamrut, Sriji Maharaj narrated the virtues of many saints and devotees. And in this Vachanamrut, Sriji Maharaj himself says, Muktanand Swami has virtues of desiring to please me and having firm faith in me. These two divine virtues firmly and forever resides in Swami Shri's life. So this is his perspective, this is his opinion, to have firm faith in the form of Maharaj, meaning there is no God besides this Maharaj. That is the understanding of Muktanand Swami. And as we are his kids in the satsang, meaning he is the mother of satsang, he is our Adi Gurudev, so we belongs to him, and for that we have to cultivate all of these virtues in our life as well. Then pleasing Sriji Maharaj, these things written in the 25th Vachanamrut, last chapter, in this Vachanamrut Sriji Maharaj says, regardless of the extent of pain or pleasure that come his way, if he still does not regress even slightly from worship and bhakti of God, niyams, dharma or shraddha, but on the contrary progress with time, then he is called a true devotee. So we can also find these virtues in Swami's life. Not one, two, but many hindrances come to life of Swami. Many difficult times of pain or miseries come to Swami's life, but still he never faltered from the path of God, meaning from the worship and bhakti, meaning devotion of God. Niyams, his vows, meaning his religious vows, and shraddha. Even though he was very old in age, he desired to go to Akshardham, but still, as Sriji Maharaj himself given him a command, up to your last breath, you should write the scriptures of this satsang, and only to follow Sriji Maharaj's command. Our Adi Gurudev Swami said, even in his very old age, he was trying to write. He was trying to write something for the satsang. His last scripture, Dharmakyan, he had done it. But after writing, when he completed the Granth, the scripture, even in his very old age, even we can say in his last days, still he was reading some proofs. He was finding some faults and correcting his literature. And at that time, due to his old age, at that time there is no like pens or pencils, what we can say today, what we can see today. So at that time, it was the system like it is a pen like instrument at the time, but one should dip into the ink and write down one letter. Again one should dip the nib of the or tip of the pen into the ink and again write down one letter. So at that time, while proofing, Swami's pen was slipping down from his hands many times. Once Nityanand Swami found this when he came for the darshan of Swami Shri. So at the time he found it is very difficult for Swami to write down in this situation. So immediately he requested, Swami, please give me these scriptures. I'll read the proof for you. And Maharaj would become pleased upon me by doing this seva. So please give me this seva. And Muktanand Swami then handed over the scripture, and finally, within very few days, he returned to Akshardham. So this is what his firmness to obey each and every command, especially given to him by Maharaj. In third Vachanamrut of Sarangpur, ever increasing enthusiasm, we know in this Vachanamrut, Sriji Maharaj himself says how was Swami's Shraddha and understanding for God's form. Such a person has intense Shraddha in performing the puja of God and serving Him, in listening to discourses and talks related to God, and in singing devotional songs. He also understands the profound greatness of God. With each passing day, both of these two aspects remain ever fresh, but never diminish. For example, Muktanand Swami's Shraddha and understanding of God's greatness are exactly the same today and just as fresh as they were when I first saw him in Lojpur. They have not diminished in any way whatsoever. So, this is what divine words for Swami Shri from Sriji Maharaj's mouth. So, Sriji Maharaj himself praised him for his Shraddha and understanding of God's greatness. It is very difficult to keep the same level of Shraddha and understanding the greatness of Maharaj and Santo even for longer time, because from the at the time of beginning we all have Shraddha and understanding of bhagwans and sadhus and devotees' greatness. But when time passes, meaning when we have a chance to stay near or close for a long period of time, then due to our inner ego, we cannot have similar Shraddha or understanding regarding bhagwans or devotees or santos' greatness. But Swami's life is totally different, and he has the exact Shraddha and greatness of Maharaj and Santo and devotees, the same as he had for the first day. In 33 Vachanamrut, first chapter, Sriji Maharaj says, thereafter Sriji Maharaj said, if you allow me, may I ask all of you a question? Muktanand Swami said, Maharaj, please do ask. Thereupon Maharaj asked, of the three inclinations, I have just described to you which is your inclination. After all, although a combination of all three inclinations is generally present in all devotees of God, the inclination that is predominant is said to be the inclination they possess. So, of the three, blind faith, love and understanding, which is your inclination? Muktanand Swami and Brahmanand Swami both replied, our inclination is of understanding. So, our Adi Gurudev's opinion is of having an inclination of understanding. We have already seen through this inclination of understanding through these different Vachanamrits. The other opinion of Muktanand Swami, that is Guru Bhakti. Because we know the incident of the Arti, the very first Arti of Sriji Maharaj. In many different books, it was written like Muktanand Swami doesn't possess the faith of God. But instead of that, if we can see, like Muktanand Swami has an extremely precise level of Guru Bhakti, then we can understand how much faith he has in God and his Guru. He had firm or unflinching faith in his Guru, like someone who saw him, the divine form of God, in one's palm. Still, Swami Shri never believed or never understand the greatness of that person besides Ramanand Swami, because he has firmly believed besides Ramananda Swami, there is no God on this earth. He believed his Guru as the form of God. From the Akshardham, he knew Maharaj is the Supreme God and Ramananda Swami is nothing but his sevak. Still, only to show us the perfect way of Guru Bhakti, he performed this charitra and not believing Sriji Maharaj as the Supreme Almighty. But finally, when Ramananda Swami himself manifested in front of him in his divine form, and when Ramananda Swami told him, believe Sriji Maharaj as the Supreme Lord, he is the Supreme God, then Swami Shri believed Maharaj as the Supreme God, and then he performed Sriji Maharaj Arti. But Swami Shri had performed this charitra only and only to make others convinced for the form of Sriji Maharaj as the Supreme Lord. Because he already knew about the supremacy of Maharaj, but still there were many, meaning in thousands, those who were the disciples of Ramananda Swami. And all of those disciples believed Ramananda Swami as the manifest form of God himself. And they would never believed any other, whether Maharaj showed them the miracles like samadhis and others, still they never ready to accept Sriji Maharaj as the Supreme God. And for that purpose, Ramananda Swami had to perform this charitra. When Muktananda Swami himself performed the Arti of Maharaj and he himself believed Maharaj as the Supreme Lord, then the other disciples who never ready to accept Sriji Maharaj as the Supreme God, they all become ready to accept Sriji Maharaj as the Supreme Lord, and they all become a faithful devotee of Sriji Maharaj. This is the true story. The other thing, Sant Bhakti. Muktananda Swami says in his Kirtan, such a Sant chet Dev, in his Kirtan. So this Kirtan is also given in this course. You can read, sing and memorize from the course material. Next slide. Pujya Guruji, who is serving Loyadham with his each breath. So an effort to serve Loyadham with our body, mind and wealth, while observing Agnya and Upasana and according to Pujya Guruji's wishes, that is called Maru Laksh Loyadham. We know Pujya Guruji's divine virtues, his opinion, meaning he believed Supreme Upasana, meaning Sarvopari. We always given this message from the day when we entered this satsang of Loyadham. From the very first day, Pujya Guruji gave us this message of the scriptures that there is no God besides this Sriji Maharaj. Meaning we have attained the Supreme Almighty Supreme God. This is what Pujya Guruji's first and foremost principle which is given to us. Second, glory of Sadguru Santo, and to understand their pride. So we can easily find this glory of Sadguru Santo from the life of Pujya Guruji. He had too much affection for all of the Sadgurus. But amongst the others, Pujya Guruji himself narrated these things during his Katha of Nand Santo's divine life. At the time, Pujya Guruji says, I have too much affection for all of the Nand Santos, but amongst those Nand Santo, I have thousands times more affection for Gopalanand Swami. Why? Because he has given us all this tradition and everything after Sriji Maharaj. But Pujya Guruji says, Even I have thousands times more affection than Gopalanand Swami for my Adi Gurudev Swami Shri, meaning Muktanand Swami. Why? Because he has given me this divine parampara. He has given me everything, meaning this Thakurji Maharaj, all these divine virtues and everything. But Pujya Guruji didn't stop there. He said, I have even thousands times more affection for my Guruji, meaning Pujya Dada Guruji, than even Muktanand Swami. Why? Because he had given me the true knowledge of who Muktanand Swami is, who Maharaj is, who Gopalanand Swami is. He has given me all of these virtues. He has given me this saintliness and everything. So, in this way, Pujya Guruji has our understanding regarding the glory and greatness of all of the Sadgurus. So, from Pujya Guruji's life, we can also imbibe this virtue. His firm belief in master-servant relationship. Even though he said, I have that much affection for my Guruji, meaning Pujya Dada Guruji, still Maharaj is Maharaj and Sadgurus are Sadgurus and servant, meaning we as a devotee or disciples are there. So in this way, he has firm understanding from belief in master-servant relationship. He has firm faith in observance of 5 vows. We know many incidents regarding his firmness in observing all of these 5 religious vows. Recently, we have visited during our UK Vicharan, the East London Mandir. There, their former president, Samji Bhai, he himself narrated the incident of 1994 when Pujya Guruji first visited UK. Then he had already planned to tour towards Africa, different African countries. But at that time, while doing Katha, Pujya Guruji immediately fell down. So all the devotees took him to the nearest hospital. There, when doctors, they have after performing several tests and scanning his body, they found out some veins were not blocked, but some veins are totally dried. So Samji Bhai told us a month ago, he told us Pujya Guruji is performing extremely high or extremely harsh tap, so that even his veins were drying. And he also narrated in short the incident when a female nurse just opened the door and again closed and went, but still Pujya Guruji denied to stay inside the hospital for even a single night. So that was his firmness in observing his 5 religious vows. And in shortly we can understand, as his disciple, if we are following 5 religious vows easily, so it is very definitely we can say how much his firmness to observe these 5 religious vows. A wish to serve Loyadham even by lowest seva. Pujya Guruji has these virtues. From worshipping, meaning offering devotion to Thakurji Maharaj, meaning after he's doing abhishek or performing his arti or performing his pujan or even offering him bhaga and something, from that seva up to digging the land. He is interesting in both type of seva. An opportunity to please Maharaj. Whatever or whenever he found any opportunity to serve Loyadham, he immediately engaged himself into performing this seva. And by performing this seva, he teaches how to get opportunity and to please Maharaj by performing seva. And last, dedication by body, mind and wealth. This is also one virtue of Loyadham Parivar Santo and Bhakto, because this virtue we can easily see in Puja Guruji's life. Next, an effort to act as per these four things, meaning Maru Laksh Loyadham. In the end, to reach Akshardham in company of Maharaj, Sadguru Santo of Muktanandi Parampara, Puja Guruji, Santo and devotees of Loyadham Parivar, we can proudly say Maru Laksh Loyadham. You all devotees, please say after me, Maru Laksh Loyadham, Maru Laksh Loyadham, Maru Laksh Loyadham. By saying this, my humble Jai Swaminarayan. Sri Thakur Ji Maharajani Jai. Sri Patim Sridharam Sarvadeveshwaram Bhaktidharmatmajam Vasudevam Harim Madhavam Keshavam Kamadam Karanam Swaminarayanam Neelakantham Bhaje. Sri Ghanshyamprakashdasji Jai.